This is it. No more teasers and sizzle reels. We are actually getting meaty war within narrative content, this time in the form of a 5-minute short that is depicting our overt enemy, the Nerubians of Azj-Kahet and Xal'atath. And my job today is to help you understand everything that we've seen. So, together, we're going to jargon bust, we're going to explain things, and even if you're out of the loop, and you've only been lured here because you thought, oh my god, I can fix her, well, guess what? Number one, that's everyone, and number two, don't worry about being out of the loop. And to my diehard lore crew, to those of us who have been in the trenches for years, guess what? I think the big reveal here is what Xal'atath did right after she hopped through the portal in this scene in Battle for Azeroth.
Hear me, God of the Deep. I have brought you the Opener, the bringer of truths, the torch that lights the way. Honor our bargain. Free me to find my own fate.
Go. But the blade must remain to serve my will.
A fair exchange. Shadows guide you, my dear friend. We will meet again. I am certain of it.
Okay, now that we're warmed up, let's do the cinematic. I will cover where we are, when we are, who these people are, what happened in the cinematic, and what it means. So, where are we? The answer is we're in Azj-Kahet. Azj-Kahet is a Nerubian empire, and it's located underneath Khaz-Algar. Now, you'll probably know the Nerubians because they were in Warcraft 3. They were then, of course, very heavily in Wrath of the Lich King, and we even found a few Nerubians who had escaped on an island in Battle for Azeroth. Now, these Nerubians exist because of events long ago, right? So way back in the day of the Black Empire, which is when the old gods ruled Azeroth. I'm not talking about the Battle for Azeroth and Azoth fight, I'm talking about like millions of years before then, right? So one of the races at that time were called the Akir, which are basically these old god-aligned bug people. Now, eventually they would get their asses handed to them, and when they did, they basically fled. Now, some of them fled to the south. They ended up, of course, near Cthulhu, and they ended up becoming the Karaj, of course, the people that we dealt with in vanilla. Those who skittered away off to the north then became the Nerubians. They settled down near Yogg-Saron's prison, but the key thing for them is that long ago, those Nerubians actually rejected the old gods. And that's actually why, by the time that Arthas and all the Lich King stuff happens in Warcraft 3, like, these are some pretty damn powerful, sophisticated Nerubians. This was an event called the War of the Spider. It's actually metal. It is so goddamn metal. It's a great story. But of course, that group of Nerubians, well, we would deal with them in many ways during the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. As for these Nerubians, those of Azj-Kahet, we do not know exactly when they went to where they are. I initially thought that they ran away during the War of the Spider, right? But it does seem they've been there quite a bit longer, so all we can assume is this group of Nerubians broke off at some point in the past, and using the vast underground cave and tunnel networks, they ended up settling near Azj-Kahet. Which certainly does make me wonder why, and that maybe, if you noticed, say, a certain mural in this cinematic, your head will be going. But okay, Azj-Kahet, that is where we are. So that's where the cinematic takes place, and just what the hell a Nerubian is. What, though, about time? When does this take place? The answer to that's pretty simple. This cinematic happens mostly during the years following Battle for Azeroth. However, at the start, it's grounded by a flashback to Ansarek's mother's rejection of N'Zoth. Now, that could be a bit confusing to people because, obviously, you look at that and you think, was the Black Empire not a long time ago? And the cinematic said the Black Empire. A little bit confusing in the wording, but we definitely do know that this is in the years following Battle for Azeroth. The reason why is Xal'atath. Xal'atath appears here, and she appears with her new body. Her body gained during Battle for Azeroth. And that, of course, may lead you to a question. Well, what happened in Battle for Azeroth again? Because it was an expansion particularly notable for having a very fragmented story that a lot of players found hard to follow. The good thing is, I was one of the few people who, for some reason, just, did a PhD in Battle for Azeroth lore or something like that. So, let's talk about how BFA went down and how Xal'atath is important and how she finds herself in this position in this cinematic. In Battle for Azeroth, we thought it was going to be some sort of big faction war, but Blizzard always teased that, no, the battle for Azeroth, wink wink nudge nudge, may be a little bit more than just going and fighting the Horde or the Alliance. So, they are, of course, alluding to the old gods. The whole plan was that N'Zoth, who was supposed to be the old god, who is a big maker of plans, right? It was supposed to be that he would exploit our division and our war to basically take over. That's the gambit that he tried to launch in patch 8.3. But I suppose he really was quite the sucker, because he was free before the faction war ended, but patch 8.3 happened after the factional truce. So, yeah, whoops. I think actually what happened is that Sylvanas kind of ruined N'Zoth's plan, really. But anyway, we land in BFA, we do faction conflict stuff, we do old god stuff in places like Stormsong Valley, we take out the strange old god science experiment gone wrong Gahoon, and then after that, there's Dazara lore, and after Dazara lore, well, a whole bunch of quest content happens with Xal'atath. Essentially, we find the Blade again. And that's, of course, relevant because for the longest time, Xal'atath was an entity inside a blade. We don't know if she was hiding in the blade or if she was maybe put there by the old gods. Maybe if she was defeated long ago and that was kind of like her punishment. Well, the thing that was notable is that Xal'atath kind of manipulates the player into doing a bunch of things for her, and eventually that leads to Xal'atath getting her own body. She then, in the cinematic that we played at the top of this video, basically makes a bargain with N'Zoth. N'Zoth says, yo, I want that dagger, and Xal'atath says, alright, but, respect our pact, I've got to go and do things. And so, that pact happens. Xal'atath walks through a void portal, and she very much says to the hero, oh, don't worry, darling, we'll meet again. Now, canonically, that dagger was then given by the Horde player to Sylvanas. Sylvanas then gave it to Nathanos, and Nathanos gave it to Ashara. And the way that it was supposed to work, right, is that Ashara thought that if she could get this dagger, it would be really powerful, like it maybe has the ability to kind of suck in the essence of an old god being, maybe a being like Xal'atath. So she seems to have thought that she could have used it to kill N'Zoth and finally free herself. Okay, so that's Ashara's gambit. Now N'Zoth is kind of thinking, alright, I need to give Ashara the knife, so she thinks she can come at me. But I know that the players are going to defeat her first, and then I'm gonna get away scot-free. And as a part of N'Zoth's plan, he tried to rally all the forces, all the different squidgy old god-aligned beings that he could muster in patch 8.3. And the reason why the Nerubians of Azj-Kahet didn't join is basically what we see in this cinematic. That is what Xal'atath was doing. Going to the cinematic then, we see that the old queen Neferes was once strong, but she's really struggling to keep the momentum up. And her daughter looks at this and she's just really confused. She deeply respects parts of her mother. It seems real obvious that, yeah, in avoiding sending the Nerubians to help N'Zoth in patch 8.3, that she protected her people. But the problem is Ansarek, the daughter of the queen, is young. Wishes things could be better. I mean, something so many of us can feel. Looks at the old establishment who probably think they have good reasons for not fixing problems and is rash and crazy and, big away, and she's frustrated. So we see this play out between the two characters. Now, Neferes then takes some time to herself, and what she starts to hear and see is Xal'atath. It then becomes clear that this is the first time that Neferes has actually seen Xal'atath in person. Previously, it had only been whispers, and I think this is quite obviously Xal'atath ready to go and make her power move. Xal'atath, of course, has been deep within Neferes' mind. Xal'atath can probably predict what she'll do, and that is at the heart of the gambit that we see Xal'atath pull off in this. And so Neferes bickers with Xal. She rejects the power out of her principles, and this is very much calling back to key things in Warcraft, like Gul'dan and the orcs, right? Drinking the blood of Manaroth, which is what corrupted the orcs and led to the events of Warcraft 1, 2, 3, and basically led to this franchise having orcs and humans. This is obviously suspicious. I mean, Xal'atath is essentially saying, make Azj-Kahet great again. Hey, drink some of this evil Cthulhu blood. Of course, the point being that previously these Nerubians had said no to the old gods, so this would be Neferes going back on her prior decisions, betraying her past self for power, and maybe because she is a wise leader, she understands that, yeah, I could do some sort of cheap solution now, and it would make my people happier, but is it good in the long run? Just like, say, a lot of what the Nightborn who we met in Legion did, yeah, it preserved them, but at a lot of deep cost to their own society. And so we hear the words, your time will come, but only when you are, and then the stab of a knife. Neferes' reign was long, and now it is over, because her daughter, Ansarek, has just assassinated her. Neferess kept her people out of war. She likely lived through a hell of a lot, and it's obvious that she had heard the whispers of Xal'atath for a long, long time. Hell, even look at the mural that she is walking around. Look at the iconography there. Think about the deep history of basically how bad it's ended up going for anyone who deeply signed up to the old god plan. And yet it is true that her people are starving. They are suffering. Why has she not fixed the problem? And I think the reason is fairly obvious. She has spent a life trying to do the best, in all likelihood. But those whispers from Xal'atath have been in her brain, maybe from other things as well. That burden has weighed on her, and while she has made many great decisions and kept her people out of disastrous war, she's just lacking the energy needed to solve these problems for her society. And that is where Ansarek comes in. Ansarek is young, Ansarek is fiery, she wants things to be better, but the folly of youth, the lack of wisdom. And so, just like how in the real world, you often find people that say, hey, I have an easy solution to your hard problem. And that can lead to a lot of bad things happening, because maybe that person is not working in your best interests. In this case, Xal'atath is not working in the best interests of Neferess, but Neferess is angry, disappointed in her mother, and she feels the plight of her people. And so the pact is made. It is revealed that Ansarek also has been hearing the whispers. As she puts it to her mother, seeing ghosts. Xal'atath has been playing both sides masterfully. And in using Ansarek just as she wants, she set up her next move with Neferess. And that is what leads us to this expansion. What are these characters doing? Well, Xal'atath is offering a great promise. Power. And it seems to be via the collection of old god blood. And that is where I get to my own lore analysis and how I think this is damn cool. So, Xal'atath is an entity from the old days of the Black Empire. We've heard talk of a fifth old god. Some people maybe even think that that could have been Xal'atath. I mean, when we met Xal'atath in the Legion expansion for the first time, it was clear that she was a little bit different to the old gods. It maybe seemed that she had perhaps been betrayed by those old gods. Well, who's laughing now? That's basically the point with Zal. Xal'atath is smart, Xal'atath is patient, and you know all those times that she whispered into your ear during the Legion expansion that she believed in you? That we would meet her again? That she does value us? That's actually true. That's the thing. She believed that we would succeed against N'Zoth. She probably believes we'll succeed against the Ridderchron whenever that stuff goes down in the future. She's not mind-controlling us. She's not manipulating us. It isn't some weird jailer stuff. She's just a smart character who has an intelligent analysis of what the player is capable of. And so, rather than use force too much, she was more than content to just weave her plan around what we were doing anyway. And in doing so, it seems that now she is harvesting the blood of those who betrayed her. And where my brain lights up is the why. So, overtly, this old god blood can be given to the Nerubians, and it basically turns them from scrungly spider dudes into, Ben 10 deviant art. That's unfair. I actually think they look really cool. And that gives Neferess all that she wants. Her people will live longer. They will have stronger forms. They will be more intelligent. All the things that she could possibly want. But what does Xal'atath get out of it? Previously, we saw that Ridderchron gathered the essence of Galakrond, which seems to be some sort of dark, spooky, all-consuming, void-aligned essence from way back in the day, 20,000 years ago, right? We still don't know what she's going to do with that. Now she is harvesting the blood of old gods who have been deeply embedded in our planet, whose flesh has almost mingled into the rock itself. These are old gods whose magic turned stone Vrykul-like creatures literally into humans. In a way, they directly created loads of the player races by turning Titan constructs into mortal, fleshy beings that I suppose you could say have a soul. So whatever this essence is, it is powerful. What does Xal'atath want? I do not know. Perhaps it is that she's the harbinger of Dimensius and she wants to get a big Void Lord to come and gobble up our world, and that the Radiant song sung by Azeroth does actually mean that Azeroth expects that some terrible dark being is going to essentially consume her, like what happened on the ethereal homeworld of Koresh. Could be that. It could only be that. Or it could be that and this. Xal'atath reclaiming all of this power to perhaps regain her original form. Some of us may even think that's the mysterious being in the mural. Personally, I think this was an absolutely standout piece of work, and I ran an experiment with it. I showed it to my girlfriend, who knows nothing about World of Warcraft stuff. Being an artist who likes dragons, she's aware of, like, Deathwing and all that cool stuff, but really knows nothing about WoW, has never really played it. So I wanted to learn what somebody would think about this totally fresh. Here's a literal quote with a few connective words cut out. "I didn't care about Xal'atath from still images. Now I'm totally obsessed with her from the acting. She's hot, compelling, imposing." And that's the thing. All of the like, hee pretty murder girlfriend, smile, laugh. That's not worked with Xal'atath for a lot of people because we don't fear her yet, because we haven't felt her do things. In this, we see Xal'atath at work. We see how she worms into minds. The thin line between mania and torment that she inflicts on her victims is just there in her smile. The acting, the animation, the voiceover work. It is it's brilliant. I think it is great. I think this sells Xal'atath as a villain better than any other piece of promotional media that they have done. And to bullet point the end result of my experiment, she gets the premise, but of course doesn't have the context. She understands the themes that they're working for clearly from looking at this and watching this in isolation. She thinks that the Nerubians are a pretty damn cool, well-designed race. Though does see design choices inspired by like some more modern hits, but overall the end result was curious, wants to follow that character into the future, and has been hooked. Hooked in a way that is more profound than in the past. Because in the past it was, I don't care about this story, don't care about these characters, but I respect Blizzard's artists. What's changed is those things coming together in a way that, from what I've seen, is actually compelling, including to people outside of World of Warcraft. Because you may see Tyrande and Malfurion, and to us that'll matter. But if you haven't followed those characters for decades, you won't really know or care. This just stood as its own piece of really, really cool work that sold what these characters are going to do. So GG, from a lore perspective, I absolutely love this. And remember, I have 2 more bits of content that you can watch right now. Over in Bellular.Games, we have just published our lore walking special on the Nerubians. And later on today, we're also publishing our lore walking extended podcast special on this topic. So if you think I've went deep in this video, just you wait and see until that. So that's hours worth of content that you can watch today. And of course, there's the entire back catalog of lore walking. If you want to learn the lore of the classes, the great heroes of Azeroth, well, lore walking's the thing. And it's just one of the many things that we do over on Bellular.Games, where my goal is to build our future free from algorithms, free from bullshit, and entirely focused on giving you the best content experience that we can do. That is the plan. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you over at Bellular.Games, where we are about to publish our lore walking on this topic, and you can check out the Nerubians, which we published yesterday.